Welcome to Satsang Conversations, where we journey across the world to the serene and sacred spaces of BAPS Mandirs. This podcast is your gateway to exploring profound spiritual lessons that echo through time yet remain incredibly relevant in our everyday lives. Each episode brings heartfelt discussions, wisdom, and insights that help us navigate the challenges of modern life with a deeper sense of peace, purpose, and connection. So, whether you're seeking inspiration, solace, or a spark to light up your spiritual path, join us as we dive into conversations that uplift the soul and enrich the heart. This week, we join the sadhus at the BAPS Hindu Mandir in Abu Dhabi.
Today, we are going to be doing a goshthi on a kirtan called Gun Gata. It is the first pad of the 4 kirtans which we call Chausar. It is a set of 4 pads composed by Muktanand Swami. And we all know that kirtan bhakti in our sampradaya has a great significance. And actually, whenever we get a chance to sing a kirtan, we just don't take it um, as a chance to be performing it on stage, but we think of it as a golden opportunity, and we are getting to sing the glory of God and the Satpurush as well. And even Swaminarayan Bhagwan, he mentions this in Loya 14. It is Ruchinu Vachnamrut, which means that Swaminarayan Bhagwan has mentioned his personal preferences there. Maharaj says that if someone is singing kirtans, I feel that I should send someone to him, or I should myself go there, because I feel that whatever he is doing is very appropriate. Even Yogi Baba used to say, if someone sings kirtan, I feel very much delighted. So this much is the importance of kirtan bhakti in our sampradaya. And one of the best things today is all of us, more or less, we are inclined to kirtan bhakti. And something that really touches me about Swaminarayan Bhagwan, he understands the jiva so perfectly. Swaminarayan Bhagwan, he has said that he knew that the jiva will not be able to do without indulging itself in the vishayas. So Swaminarayan Bhagwan has given us the freedom to indulge ourselves in the panch vishayas, provided that they are God related. So if you have a musical inclination, fine, do kirtan bhakti. If you can speak well, okay, do pravachans. If you are good at writing, write articles on Bhagwan and the Satpurush. So Bhagwan has given us the freedom to indulge in these things with the condition that it should be only God related. So today, before we begin the goshti, actually, first we will be singing the kirtan. Hari Gun Gata, Hari Gun Gata, Duri Janiyano Dhadkan Man Madhariye. Shirne Sate, Shirne Sate, श्वासोच्छ्वासे सुंदर वर संभारिये. जे साचों समरण आदरे, जे साचों समरण आदरे, तेनो मूरख मानस द्रोह करे, तेनो मूरख मानस द्रोह करे, ते उल्टो निज शिर भार भरे, ते उल्टो निज शिर भार भरे. हरि गुण गाता, हरि गुण गाता, दुरी जनियानो धड़कन मन माधारिये. जे सूरज सामीरज नाखे, जे सूरज सामीरज नाखे, ते उलटी आवी पड़े आंखें, ते उलटी आवी पड़े आंखें. रवि रोष राग मन नव राखे, रवि रोष राग मन नव राखे. हरि गुण गाता, हरि गुण गाता, દુરી જનિયાનો ધડકન મનમાં ધારીએ, એમ સમજી મન દ્રઢ રાખીએ, એમ સમજી મન દ્રઢ રાખીએ, મુખે કાયરતા નવ ભાખીએ, મુખે કાયરતા નવ ભાખીએ, આ તન પ્રભુ પર વારી નાખીએ, આ તન પ્રભુ પર વારી નાખીએ, હરિગુણ ગાતા, હરિગુણ ગાતા, દુરી જનિયાનો ધડકન મનમાં ધારીએ. જે તન મન ધન હરિ ચરણે ધરે, જે તન મન ધન હરિ ચરણે ધરે, તેની સુંદર શ્યામ સહાય કરે, તેની સુંદર શ્યામ સહાય કરે. કહે મુક્તાનંદ તારે ને તરે, કહે મુક્તાનંદ તારે ને તરે, હરિગુણ ગાતા, હરિગુણ ગાતા, દુરી જનિયાનો ધડકન મનમાં ધારીએ. શિરને સાટે, શિરને સાટે, શ્વાસોચ્છ્વાસે સુંદર વર સંભારીએ. Swami, what a fantastic kirtan. Muktanand Swami, we've heard about them, we heard this about him, that even before he became a sadhu, he was so much pious that he had thought, if I cannot walk the path of celibacy, there's just no point in living life. And he was actually 22 years elder to Sriji Maharaj, and Maharaj also respected him a lot. Whenever Muktanand Swami was around, Maharaj would not do something that would create humor. So that much of maryada even Swaminarayan Bhagavan had of Muktanand Swami.
No, you're right. Muktanand Swami, in this kirtan, he gives us a really good explanation of how a true person who's committed in doing bhakti and who's committed in constantly remembering Bhagwan should be like. His characteristics, his tolerance, his consistency, in doing bhakti. And like you mentioned, Muktanand Swami, throughout his life, like you said, before he became a sadhu, he was so focused in finding the right path. He went in so many places looking for a true guru, looking for the right way and method of performing his sadhana. And then even when he met Nilkantvarni, even after following Maharaj's agnas and niyams, we can see even through the Vachanamrut, pages and pages of the Vachanamrut, Muktanand Swami has asked some really practical and basic satsang sadhana questions. And sometimes you think, why is he asking questions like these? But that's when you realize that he was trying to set an example in how, like a bhakta, a true bhakta should be thinking on improving his way of bhakti, improving his way of attaching to Bhagwan and the Sant. And this kirtan kind of gives us a poetic version of his questions in the Vachanamrut. The first line, Hari Guna Gata, Duri Janiyano Dharak, Na Manama Dhariye. Now, dharak, if you wanted to start with that word first, dharak in your man means not having fear in your mind, not having this anxiety and this dilemma of what people might think, about a bhakta. Hari Guna Gata, like whoever is committed in constantly remembering Bhagwan, someone who is committed in performing bhakti and doing bhajan towards Bhagwan and the Guru, he should never have this issue in his mind, this question in his mind of thinking what other people will think about him or people who will judge him. And then the second line, Muktanand Swami says, Shirane Sate, Swasochwase sundaravara sambhariya, that even at the risk of your life, you should never give up the name of Bhagwan. And he says swas ochwas, like that means your every breath, inhaling and exhaling, like it becomes a natural practice of remembering Bhagwan, and like it's just second nature to you. Every thought, every action, and in the beginning of this goshthi, Swami, you mentioned, right, that Bhagwan Swaminarayan has encouraged us to do this type of bhakti and have this inclination in the way we want to indulge in pleasures, with our with singing, with reading, with writing, with speaking, and that's what Muktanand Swami is trying to tell us in this kirtan. Do bhakti in the ways you like, which you prefer, and so that's why I wanted to just share some historical references from our scriptures of certain examples of bhaktas, who have put their life at risk whilst doing bhakti of Bhagwan and the Sant. One really good example that we even teach Baraks, Bhavyabhai, you might know these examples because it comes in Bal Sabhas so frequently, of Bhakta Prahlad, like such a young kid, and when he was born, he was born with the sanskars of bhajan bhakti. He was born with the sanskars of Bhagwan, and his powers and his divinity. It was just unfortunate of where he was born. He was born in a palace, which people might think, oh, great, but he was born to a king or a demon, you could say, who had his own level of ego and arrogance. Hiranyakashipu, right? Because of the boons he was granted, he thought he was immortal, and no one could defeat him, not even God. And hence, through those thoughts, he thought he was God, and he should be worshipped. So within the palace, every corner of the palace, Hiranyakashipu demanded people worshipped him. And when his son was growing through his childhood, running around the corridors and running around with his friends and playing and studying in his gurukuls, he kept on singing Om Vishnu Devaya Namaha, Om Vishnu Devaya Namaha, and Hiranyakashipu would hear these echoes around the palace and just get furious at every instant of this. And it became so frustrating and insulting to Hiranyakashipu that he started to, create ways in killing his own son. There's examples of Hiranyakashipu throwing Prahlad into an area where elephants would just stampede all over him. There's instances where he would throw Prahlad into a small cage with venomous snakes. There's instances where late at night he would throw Prahlad off a cliff, hoping, he would tumble down the hills and die. The ultimate was where Hiranyakashipu had a sister, Horika, who had robes which were fireproof. And he came up with this idea of putting Prahlad in her lap and engulf them in flames, and Holika would survive and Prahlad wouldn't. But because of God's grace and because of the power of his bhakti, which will be discussed in our goshthi, Prahlad was saved and the reverse happened. So but what we see in this story is that Prahlad came victorious. The bhakti, the Hari Gun Gavanu, became victorious against the odds, became victorious against the Duri Janiyano Dhadak. Like there's no fear. If you have bhajan bhakti with you, if bhajan bhakti is part of your life, life is breathing. So if it's part of your every breath, then it becomes a shield and becomes a protection for you. Very similar example of Narsi Mehta, not born in a palace, right? Extreme opposite end of the setting that Prahlad was in. He was in a very normal village with very strict societal roles and levels within the community. And when Narsi Mehta, when he was struggling financially, he was struggling with his the kind of the system that was placed in his village, right? He was ridiculed for his bhakti. He was a staunch Vaishnava bhakta, very poetic. He wrote so many kirtans. In fact, you can actually put one of Narsi Mehta's kirtans side by side with this kirtan that we're discussing today of Muktanand Swami. Muktanand Swami has written, Hari Guna Gata, Duri Janiyano Dhadakana Manamadhariye, And then swaso swase sundar var sambhariye. Narsi Mehta says, Mane hari guna gavani tev padi. What does a tev mean, Bhavya? Habit, right? It's a habit. Like it's part of his life. Like it's easy to form a habit, but then it's hard to get rid of a habit, right? So Narsi Mehta, he formed a habit of Hari Gun Gavanu, which is bhajan bhakti, which is of devotion. And then the second line is Mara Nathane Mukuna Ek Gadi. For one split second, not even a full second, like one fraction of a second, he couldn't let go of Bhagwan. He couldn't let go of remembering Bhagwan and bhajan bhakti. So I think the first line, Muktanand Swami just sets the scene of this goshti.
Swami, but you highlighted one thing, that when someone gets so much inclined into kirtan bhakti, doing devotion unto God, they do face a lot of criticism and problems. You said Prahlad was pushed off a cliff and Narsi Mehta was ridiculed in his village. Now, of course, in our time, this contemporary world which we live in right now, this sort of criticism doesn't exist anymore. We've grown into a very ethical world where you can't do this out loud anymore. But the criticism has sort of metamorphosized into curiosity and prejudice, if I'm not wrong. Now, think about it. As a Kishore, personally, what I feel like is when I go out with my Tilak Chanlo in a mall or at the beach with my friends, for example, the looks that I get from other people walking beside me, like raised eyebrows. Oh, what's this up here? Why is he doing this in a public place? Or maybe when I'm not eating outside, if I have Ekadashi niyams and if I don't eat the normal food that my friends give me, like a pack of chips or something maybe, and I said, no, I'm fasting today. So that gets me weird looks as well, like why is he doing all of this? Now, yeah, you know what, I'll tell you a recent example. Recently we had Eid holidays. It was a 4-day long holiday here, national holiday. Now, in a year, probably you get like 10 national holidays in which everything's closed, like schools, companies and everything. And so for the 4 days, everyone had something planned. Now, some are going to the beach, some went to the malls, and some went even to Oman. And obviously, once everyone got back on Monday, everyone's like, where did you go? Tell me about it. And my friends started discussing, I went to the beach, I had a lot of fun. The weather was like splendid, absolutely amazing. Some guys went up to the mountains, did some hiking, and then the attention comes on me. Bhavya, where did you go for your holidays? And I say, I went to the mandir to volunteer. And these guys give me like bemused looks, yeah? They're like confused to some extent. Okay, you spent 4 days of your holiday at the mandir? And then for a second, my mind has this fleeting thought that of FOMO, as they say, that maybe I missed out on the holidays. I should have taken advantage of these days. Maybe gone out, gotten some good clothes in the offers and sales. But then again, as Muktanand Swami says, ke sachu samra ade tero murak manas dro kare. These are questions that I was gonna get obviously for doing my bhakti. And then in my head, I have the second contrasting thought, yeah, that was going to the mandir for volunteering that bad? And then I relive my experiences, yeah. I was at the mandir for 4 days. I did seva for my Shishu mandir. Obviously, I finished some work over there. Then I did seva in the mandir. And what did I do while doing seva at the mandir? While doing darshan, maybe I saw so many people come up to the mandir and look at the murtis with tears in the eyes, and that bhakti really touches me, Yeah, these guys are also getting the same amount of holidays and they decided to spend it at the mandir. So looking at them really, strengthened my bhakti. Then on Sunday there was Sabha obviously, and being with my Shishus, I feel like, yeah, look, I'm doing something that inspires others. My bhakti is going to become like something inspiring to them. Because I came to Mandir, I spent time with them, they're becoming happy. Through the 4 days at Mandir, I spent more time with my family at the Mandir, collectively doing seva with them. And that, improved my relationships overall at the Mandir as well. And so I think to myself, well, going to the Mandir wasn't so bad, as maybe that 1 second I was thinking that maybe I missed out, but I didn't miss out on anything. In fact, I gained much more than I would have done if I had gone to the mall or to the beach. And it's like at that moment you have to take up a choice when you are faced with questions like this. You have to put it on a weighing scale, yeah? Okay, who matters more to you, Is it Bhagwan and his bhakti? Or is it the world and its mic sukh, the temporary sukh that the temporary happiness that you get from practicing all this stuff? Well, obviously I'm going to get some happiness from this, But look at this sukh, look at Bhagwan's sukh. Bhagwan Maharaj says it's like Chintamani Tulya. This is priceless. This is like eternal, this sukh. And so doing this bhakti obviously is going to benefit me. Just look at it, not from a spiritual manner, but practicing bhakti literally. You become so focused at one thing, you develop your mental skills in focusing, you become more connected to people at the mandir, you grow your social relationships. And look at the examples of people who have done bhakti, like around us. For example, the Sadguru Santos, they've spent their whole lives doing bhakti, and just look at them, they're so inspiring. The aura on their faces, they give out that radiance. When you talk to them, you feel inspired yourself. And so the bhakti speaks for itself. Yeah, you don't need it to like be visible all the time, but that bhakti which they've been doing, it shows that it's been an advantage to them. It's not something that's going to make you miss out on other stuff, but this is something you should be missing out stuff for. This is the bhakti, this is the advantages that you're getting from this bhakti.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
Swami said something about swas.
Yeah.
And when you said Sadguru Santos Bhakti, sometimes I feel embarrassed because, I feel lazy. I don't want to do danvats. I don't want to do mada because you feel lazy. And then Guru Hari Darshan comes up, or you're in a mandir and a Sadguru Sant's there doing danvats, and you're thinking, all right, cool, yeah, he's done 6 danvats. No, he doesn't do 6 danvats to one kant. He then goes and does 6 danvats to all the kants, right? And then it's like swas, right? It's not even there's not even a thought, right? I should do this, or it just happens. It's not forced, right? Whereas for me, it's like, oh damn, I've got to go and do danvats. You said in the blistering heat, and my own personal experience is boiling when you come to mandir, and most of the time you come around afternoon, midday heat, and even that thought enters my mind. Actually, I'll go to sabha first, and then when it cools down in the in the evening when it's night, then I'll go and do mandir darshan, right? Because you got to climb all the stairs and then you got up. But for Mansai Maharaj, for the Sadguru Santos, that's not the first thing they'll do when they put their foot in, darshan kulach, straight up.
Even in the simplest of bhaktis that we all perform, right, we have this choice. I think that's what Bhavya was kind of trying to explain, that like even when you do Tilak Chandra in the morning, there's a split second of a choice. Do I keep it on or do I, and then there's the Ekadashi thing too. Like there's a split second choice. Do I pack my lunchbox with Faradi things, or do I just hide it for this day because I'm going to go out with my friends? Or even like I've experienced this in the past as well. Like when you go on when you go on like school trips and it's a like stayover or something, like you've packed your puja in your duffel bag or whatever, your weekend bag, but then do you take it out? or do you wake up extra early to find the gap between the bed and do puja when everyone else is sleeping? It's a split second choice, right? And that's where Muktanand Swami is.
And it's like that one poem as well. We learned it in 9th grade. It's by Robert Frost, the road not taken, if I'm not wrong. And he talks about how there are 2 roads diverging in a forest. There's one that's obviously taken by most other people, and there's a second route on the left that's less taken, less trodden on. And at the end of the poem, he says that I took the road less walked upon. And I think as mumukshu spiritual aspirants, we are all following that road less taken, not in the mainstream, but we are on that road less taken. We've taken that choice, and to stay firm with that choice is again a big problem, from criticisms and all. But once you reach a level of certain bhakti, when you immerse yourself in that bhakti, then you are so aloof from all these mic and the worldly affairs, that even those criticisms seem so small to you, it can't reach your ears. It's like as if an ant was screaming at you right now. You can't hear the ant, but like that's how small the criticisms become to you. It doesn't matter to you.
And the example you said about the split road, can now just imagine someone seeing you from far away, taking the road that's less taken, right? Do you know one of the words in the lines that you're explaining? Murak. People will see you approaching the split road and think, Murak. He's taking the road that's not even used properly or often. And then even you have this doubt too, that this is a smoother path, this is the most taken route, right? And then for a split second think, am I the Murak? Am I going to make this mistake? But then when you do take that road, which is less trodden on, right, that's when you think, no, I'm the winner.
So Swami, this makes me recollect of one of the very beautiful carvings in the Abu Dhabi Mandir. We all were talking about choices, right? Choices in mind. We often get away on this particular choices. So there is this nice carving about the Native American civilization, where a young boy comes to his father, the emperor, yeah, and asks father that, please guide me about life and let me know what's good and what's bad. So the emperor comes up with a nice story about two wolves, right? He says there are two wolves. One wolf is a good mannered, is doing good things. Another wolf is not really up to the mark. He is struggling. He's in despair. The good wolf is full of positivity and stuff. He continues for a long time. But the end of this, it doesn't stop there. So the kid comes back and asks the emperor, like his father, that tell me who survived. Who survived? So emperor answers in a very simple sentence. He says, the wolf whom you fed survived.
Really interesting.
We always have this conscious thing going in our mind, right? Like, hats off to you to put across this very strong point about today's younger youth having this challenge in mind, especially about the youths who are taking the path of devotion and bhakti. Okay. In the next stanza, Muktanand Swami tries to help us overcome these challenges. He says, "Je suraj same raj rakhe, te ulti avi pade aankhe, ravi rosh rag man nav rakhe." Think about the sun, how constant, powerful, and beyond reach it is. No matter how much ever you try to throw dust onto the sun or to try to diminish its light, it shines as bright, as brilliantly as always. It is pointless to throw dust onto the sun. It doesn't get affected. It is untouched. On the contrary, the person who throws this dust affects themselves.
It's going to fall back into their eyes.
Exactly. Te ulti avi pade aankhe.
It's going to irritate him more.
Yeah, it's going to swirl back right onto his eyes, blurring his vision. That no one can diminish God's greatness, or no one can dim the radiance of a true Haribhakt. Like here, the sun that I was referring to represents God, His saints, His pure devotee, or maybe even the path of devotion. So just as the dust can't dim the light of the sun, God's greatness cannot be diminished. So is the purity of a true Haribhakt. In fact, Bhavya mentioned that he chose to be here during the Eid holidays, right? And how much inspired was he to look at the devotion of the people coming here in this scorching heat. But have you imagined what kind of inspiration the devotees would have taken looking at a young devotee who would have easily chosen to spend his time with his friends, somewhere out.
And
But
the choice that he made to serve for 4 days straight, for 4 days he was here in Mandir doing seva, right? So the choice that he made, he will have that memory to cherish for the whole of lifetime. If he had gone to some sightseeing places or for shopping or anywhere else for entertainment and amusement, he could have had the pleasure, but that would have been very temporary. He could have forgotten that in a few days. But what he did, he will remember for the whole of his life.
the toughest choices that you make, you remember forever in your life. And we're talking about the shine of that sun, right? The light that came from Bhavya probably is not out of the ego, but out of his devotion. Not out of his ambition, but from his surrender to God.
Yeah, and then if you think now, in the next line, so Muktanand Swami says, Emma Samaji, Mana Drada Rakya. So now you've understood all this, right? You've understood that don't take what others are saying to heart. Those that are doing, and the word that he uses is draw, right? That when people do your draw, it's insult. It's actually They're the muraks, right? So you're not the murak for taking that that path less trodden. They can't see ahead. I remember we were in Shibir, I think it was in 2006 in Atadra. And at the time, we did a skit in front of Pramukh Sai Maharaj. And everyone was in Sabha, Swami was sat in front, and it was the dining hall, if I remember correctly, upstairs in Atladar Mandir. And they held sheets of polythene in front of Pramukh Sai Maharaj, right? And they held many, many layers. And as they kept dropping, when you looked at Pramukh Sai, you couldn't see him, right? As they kept dropping it, eventually it became more clear, right? The point I'm trying to say is that path less trodden. When others are looking at you, they're looking at all the pleasures on this side, thinking, yeah, this is why are you going on this road? There's wounded trees and it's difficulty and hurdles and barriers. People see niyam dharma as barriers, right? They see, oh, you can't eat out. Oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. But on this side, look how happy those people are. Exactly, so complete freedom, right?
So as he was mentioning about the Tilak Chanlo, I recollect one of the prasangs about making choices when I took my first puja. After finishing the puja, I had the choice. Should I keep it and go to my work, or should I wash my face and continue as I was doing like yesterday? But the devotion, bhakti towards God made me to keep this choice of having it. Now today, this has become my identity. People value me, people know me, people respect me for what I am. And we don't need to retaliate. That's the biggest thing, because such kind of offenses that would come from people, our main intention is how do we handle such criticisms and mockery. Things are going to undermine you, but how do you do this? Manswami Maharaj says very nicely in a short sentence, he says, we do not react, we reflect.
It's not what happens to you, it's how you take it, right?
100%.
Muktanand Swami has mentioned, Ravi Rosh Rag Man Nav Rakhe.
When you said about this particular part, that how do we take it is very important. I would like to share one story about Steve Jobs. We all know about Steve Jobs, right? He was such a fantastic man, a great personality. He was a co-founder of Apple, that all we know. But in 1985, he was forced out of the company because he was mocked by people stating that he was too idealistic, he was a failure, people didn't believe his vision. So what did Steve Jobs do? Did he retaliate? Did he put a lawsuit? Did he do something wrong? No, he went back. He kept his inner strength shine. And he created a company called as Next, a new generation computer company. He also helped to build Pixar, the largest animation studio company. And after a few years later, Apple bought Next and got Steve Jobs back, and today the innovative products that we use, right from the iPods to iPhones to iPads, are great innovations. The people who mocked him now looked upon him.
Yeah, there's a quote by Marcus Aurelius. I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically says that realize you can only control your own mind, and you can't control the external factors. You can't control others. And once you realize that, it will bring you strength. So within this, Muktanand Swami says, "Ke ema samaji mana dhrada rakhya." So understand all of this and keep your faith and staunchness in your mind. And then he carries on and then says, "Mukhe kayarata nava bhakya." And then finally, "A tana prabhu varanakya." And then if you think in satsang, we say man, karma, and vachan. So he's covered all three of these here, right? In a slightly different order. Control your mind, control your speech, and then control your body, right? Now, up until now, in theory, we think it's all been theory, right? It's about throwing, who throws sand at the sun? No one, really, right? But it's an analogy. It's an analogy about what people do. They do things but end up spiting themselves, right? It's talking about who is the fool. It's not us. Sometimes we think we're the fool, right? Because we do it and then we get the FOMO, okay, did I miss out? But it's not us. Muktanand Swami says, you're not the fool. But now he's telling us, what do you need to do? What do you do about it, right? And like you said, we've said this word so many times, it's a battle. It's a battle in the mind. And it then brings me back to, such a point in history. During World War II, the Nazis they'd conquered Europe. France had surrendered. And now Britain had a choice, basically. And the Prime Minister had just been deposed, he'd been resigned, basically, and there was a new Prime Minister, Churchill. And he'd been there for less than a month, and he had to address Parliament. Now, those around him, right, they were talking about Kayartha. They were saying, talk peace with the Nazis. Basically, let them keep what they have so that we can keep what we have, right? They were telling them, just have peace talks with the Nazis, just, okay, we're not saying to give up what we have, but don't fight for others. But what did Churchill say? He had a choice to make then, right? He could have said, no, I agree. That's the easy path, right? No, he took the path less trodden. And in his speech, imagine how much power he must have had, control of his mind. He said, we'll fight on the streets, we'll fight on the beaches, right? And through his speech and through his action, he was able to engage the whole of the country. And what was he asking them to do? He was telling them to take the path less trodden. Eat less food, ration, right? Don't worry about your homes because there was bombing going on continuously, right? So, but do everything towards the war effort. So re-engage your mind. And if you think about it, that's that path we're taking, right? Niyam dharma. Don't do this, don't do that. But why? Because we can see further ahead, right? Our drashti is much further ahead. We can see that we're going to we've given our soul and our body for Prabhu, for Bhagavan. And that's why it's there. And, as you do this, I think then Swami goes on to the next line, right?
But even like, you said about Kayartha. I remember you telling me once how, I think you forgot Tilak Chandlo or something one day. And
Swami, I'll tell you honestly.
Your friends hoped you not have Kayartha.
Swami, I'll tell you honestly this morning. So every morning my routine is I do my Tilak Chandlo, and it's I put Tilak on, and then I call my sons and I put Tilak on their foreheads. And then I put my Chandlo on, and then I put Chandlo on their foreheads. Now today, my wife had already done their Tilak Chandlo. So my routine was broken. So I did my Tilak, and then I looked for them, and I couldn't see where they were. And then I packed it all away and started my puja, and my wife came and said, so you're not satsangi today? And I was like, what do you mean? So I looked at my reflection, realized I'd missed my Chandlo. Now, this would happen when I was at school, right? So I would start my puja, and sometimes you're having a bad day. So it's mechanical. You're not doing puja with how you should be doing it. So it's mechanical, and you miss your Tilak Chandlo. And I'd go to school, Swami. And my friends would be like, what's happened? Has someone died? Like, is something wrong in your life? And I'm like, why? What's going on? They haven't got your dot on your head? And I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
But it's funny, right? Because that's how they helped you.
Yeah.
That they encouraged you, and they actually made you more vigilant in your own bhajan and bhakti.
So in my office, I've been taken care so very well. My colleagues, even my boss, right? To his boss, they know very well about what are my niyam dharams. They'll ensure that I am taken proper care in terms of my foods. If there's a gathering and stuff, they'll ensure, okay, there's a food of no onion, no garlic, vegetarian for this guy. Everything is set for him. They understand that particular part. So this is how probably our shine, our light makes other people dwell in.
You talked about the food. So for a very long time, obviously I've kept my niyam dharma. And people would ask me that, we would go to events outside for work, and they'd be like, oh, why are you not eating? And then I'd explain my niyam. Sometimes I'd take my food with me, and they'd be like, why have you got your own food? The boss is paying for everything. And I'd explain, I said, look, I have my own niyam dharma. And it's now at the point, so we've got a senior management meeting on Tuesday. And I don't like to make a fuss, I just manage on my own, and I have up until now, but this Tuesday we have a management meeting. So I was walking past reception, and I saw a menu of there's one Sattvic restaurant in Dubai, right? So I saw the menu, I was like, why have you got that? And the receptionist basically told me the boss has told me that because we have this meeting, he's arranged lunch and dinner for everyone, but he knows you won't eat. So he told me to order you food from here. And I'm like, I never asked for this. But to maintain my dharma, he's gone out of his way to find out where I can take food from, and he's ordered it from there.
And the thing is, we get this strength of following these niyams and doing bhajan in the most, I wouldn't even say the most, but some adverse situations we get the inspiration through Bapa, like Pramukh Sai Maharaj and Man Sai Maharaj. Like Gurunayan Swami can share some really good prasangs too, but Like we've seen it in Pramukh Swami Maharaj's life, because he was so firm in doing his bhajan, bhakti, ahnik, like regularly. Like he could be anywhere in the world. He could have traveled, across the world in one day, across 1.5 days. But as soon as he woke up, regardless of jet lag and time difference, he would engage in going to mandir and doing darshan, doing nitya puja, and we've seen it so many times. And because he's been through it, because he's done it, it gives us so much inspiration that the situation that we're going through is nothing. Like the hardships that we're going through is nothing. Like walking from your car in 45 degrees to just climb the steps of the mandir is nothing compared to the vichran he's done up and down like different terrains in tribal villages and remote villages of India. And that gives us the motivation to climb 10 steps into a mandir.
Now, what you said, Swami, that had been his routine throughout his life. And we could see that even in the last years of his life. I'm talking about the last 3 years that he spent in Saharanpur. Most of the time we know that Bapa would not be well. If you ask one thing to all the Sevak Santo, they will tell you, whenever Pramukh Swami Maharaj was asked by anybody during any time of the day, Bapa su karu chhe, his answer would be bhajan. Never has he single time said ke jamvu chhe, oh, I've been in the confined to these 4 walls of the house for 3 years, take me somewhere. I've been in the same mandir, why don't you guys take me elsewhere? Never.
I still remember one day in Saharanpur during those years, Pramukh Swami Maharaj was really ill, and like after many days they had brought him out in the wheelchair to do darshan in Saharanpur Mandir, the main mandir, and they knew that it was a quick routine, like take him to darshan and then bring him straight back to his room, and knowing Pramukh Swami Maharaj, part of his Saharanpur routine was to go in all the darshan places. It would be Shastriji Maharaj's room, Yogiji Maharaj's room, it could be the prasadi places around the campus, and most importantly, Smruti Mandir, which was like so close to his heart, right? And he would, go past santos there, he would do darshan in front of Shastriji Maharaj, touch the charna vein, touch the prasadi things to his eyes. So that specific day, I still remember, and I always go back to this Guru darshan as well, because it's the craving of bhakti, the craving of doing darshan and sticking to his routine was so intense. Because like Swami mentioned, the Sevak Santos, they tried to avoid going to the Smruti Mandir. Like Pragat Bhagat had a fixed area by the elevator every day. Like he would stand by the door of the main mandir's elevator. So when Pramukh Swami Maharaj would disembark from the elevator and go down the ramp, Pragat Bhagat would be there. Now, everyone knew in the logistics that seeing Pragat Bhagat equals Smruti Mandir. So like they avoided Pragat. They told Pragat Bhagat, like, don't come in the way today, because if he sees you, he's going to go to Smruti Mandir. That's how, fine, like planning was done. And as soon as Bapa's wheelchair came down the ramp after doing darshan upstairs, literally, I remember Narayan Swami was pushing the wheelchair, and Bapa's left arm just stretched. He goes, Abaju. Like he didn't say a word. He goes, Abaju. And like the Sevak Santos then was like Yogi Charan Swami, Narayan Charan Swami, Anand Swami, Yogi Swami was in Seva then. And they, obviously because it's Bapa, they're not going to say no to him, but they all just looked at each other thinking, no matter what you plan, no matter how much you try to avoid it, he wants to do bhajan bhakti. And like even today, like remembering this is so much like inspiration. Like what are you going through that can match Pramukh Swami Maharaj? Nothing. We're doing nothing that can match the hardships and the struggles he went through, and yet fulfilled his duty of a bhakta of Bhagwan.
It's like we have it in Prapti No Vichar every day. Swami says in the audio, ke tefa java prashna chhaprato. It's like so minute. We just put it in perspective with the hardships that all of our gurus have faced. Like from Bhagwan Swami Narayan, Shastriji Maharaj, Yogi Ji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, all of them have faced so much problems. And our problems are this minute. And when we think about that, we're like, oh, my problems are nothing compared to them. It's not something to worry about, yeah? These prasangs give us inspiration in trying desperate times.
Someone who's true to their bhakti, and someone who's committed in their endeavors, spiritual endeavors, the Sundar Sham Sahay Kare.
Muktanand Swami, I think in the last stanza, he's trying to conclude everything that has been discussed so far, everything has been elaborated so far. Muktanand Swami says, Je tan man dhan hari charane dhare, teni sundar sham sahaya kare. Now, there is a saying that the finest steel has to go through the hottest fire. It double implies if you want to be the finest, you have to face the hottest. And compared to what our gurus have faced, we are not going to face that much of hardship, that much of trouble, that much of opposition, right? So there is nothing like free meals in this world. If you want Bhagwan Sahay, if you really want Bhagwan to help you, you have to show some kind of dradhata from your side, right? You're not going to get everything just without any purush prayatna.
Because I think
You know,
Dradhta joine
દ્રઢતા જોઈને રે એની મદદ કરે મુરારી, હિંમતે મરદા તો મદદે ખુદા. So, જે તન મન ધન હરિ ચરણે ધરે તેની સુંદર શ્યામ સહાય કરે. Now, what does it mean to surrender with tan, with man, and with dhan? So far, we have discussed that we should remember God with every breath. It should be natural. It should not be effort oriented. It should become second nature to us. We must do so much bhakti and so much continuously that it becomes second nature to us. The way we get up every day, take a shower. Right? We don't have to make any efforts to brush our teeth or take shower or even breathe. That is why Muktanand Swami uses the word swasochwas. So, how does that happen? Tan man dhanti. Muktanand Swami says you have to surrender. All that has been said in the above three antras, that is not going to happen unless we surrender ourselves fully to God. So, tanthi surrender, that means to be available whenever our sanstha needs us. It can be seva, it can be following niyams, it can be obeying every agna to the letter. Shabda saha agna padvi, that is tanthi samarpan. Manthi samarpan, that means not to perceive any kinds of human traits, not to have manusya bhav in the pragat satpurush, to consider everybody to be flawless, nirdosh. Mahant Swami Maharaj, I think he was in Lanesia when he was asked, Swami, what is the greatest gift that we can give you on your birthday? Bapa said, Divya Bhav. That is again Nirdosh Buddhi in Bhagwan, in the Satpurush, in all of his devotees. You know, the principles that he has taught us. We have to always think that others are greater than me. It is only me who is at fault. Other people do seva and I don't do anything. Other people are divya. It is just me who needs to improve in satsang. So this is manthi satsang karo. And obviously to remember him, to remember his prasangs, to do some manan chintan, to introspect. Because unless we compare ourselves with the Satpurush, we are never going to imbibe his virtues. Mahant Swami Maharaj has mentioned this in the Satsang Diksha, that if the aspirant wants to get the virtues of the Satpurush, and if he wants to have the Anubhuti, the experience of Parabrahma, he has to do Manan Chintan on the Satpurush's life and his prasangs. So this is Manthi Samarpan, and then Dhanti Samarpan whenever needed. Obviously, we have to give 1/10 or 1/20th of our wealth as donations to the mandir as prescribed by Swaminarayan Bhagwan in the Sikshapatri. But Swaminarayan Bhagwan has also mentioned this in Loya 3. Swaminarayan Bhagwan says, someone who has firm faith in God, coupled with the glory, the understanding of Bhagwan's glory. So he has Bhagwan's faith and he understands Bhagwan's mahima. Such a Hari Bhakta, what would he not do for Bhagwan and the Sant? So we know that Bapa, Bhagwan and the Sant, they are not going to take away everything from us, right? But when the right time comes and when the Satpurush asks, we must be ready to give him whatever he's asking. So this is Tanti, Manti and Dhanti Samarpan. Now, the concluding part is Muktanand Swami says, what are the qualities of such a devotee? It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to necessarily be a sadhu. It can be a devotee, it can be a householder, it can be a badak, a kishore, a yuvak, a yuvakti, a mahila haribhakt, or a sadhu. But to end with, we'll take the presence of Satpurush. He is our others, right? Muktanand Swami says such a devotee who is genuine, who has all these lakshans, these characteristics in him, there's no doubt he will be liberated, but whoever comes into his contact, even that person will be liberated. This is the effect, this is the ripple effect that will be having. Like, yeah, you throw a pebble in the water, it doesn't remain there. Maybe it drowns, but then the effect it creates, it is spreading in the whole pond.
Spreads out, yeah. The
So
shine.
such a devotee, e eklo tare nahi, tare ane tare. I remember, because this is very much inspiring to me. 11th of September 2016, Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Shraddhanjali Sabha was conducted in Goregaon in Mumbai, and Paresh Rawal had come on stage. He had spoken for only few minutes in Hindi. I will explain what he said. The very first thing he said, I am not a person who believes so much in Santo. And actually he said, whenever I am surrounded by people in orange, I'm extra careful. Very vigilant. And very vigilant. Yeah. So then he said, and I do not consider this to be any flaw of mine. I'm always rational in my thinking. I think from my mind and I do not give in to any feelings of my heart. मैं दिल से सोचता हूँ. ठीक. So then मैं दिल की सुनता नहीं हूँ, मैं दिमाग से सोचता हूँ. This is what he said. But then something that he said even gives me goosebumps even today. He said, when I went to have Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Antim Darshan in Sarangpur, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, from a worldly point of view, Baba had already passed away to Dham, and his physical body was there in the Murti Mandapam. Paresh Rawal said, when I had Pramukh Swami Maharaj's darshan of his physical body, I could feel compassion flowing out of him. Just a minute ago, he said he does not believe in Sadhu Santo. He said, I could see compassion flowing out of him. And then he went on to say, the inspirations that I have got from Pramukh Swami Maharaj's mortal remains, I have till date not even had that inspiration from a living person. Tare ane tare. So I think it's a fantastic kirtan that Muktanand Swami has written. He has not only written this kirtan, he has given the essence of our sadhana, not only a Swaminarayan sadhana, but for any spiritual aspirant walking on the path of spirituality. Let us pray to Maharaj Swami that may we all be able to live by the words of this kirtan. Swaminarayan Bhagwanani Jai. Thank you very much everyone for your valuable time. Jai Swaminarayan.